Hey San Diego, Cathryn with Alive in San Diego. Excited to say that I have the amazing Paul Abbott from Zen Mastering in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for
having me. It's
having
a little warm
me.
today in our outdoor studio / sewing room.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
It's not. So Paul, first of all, Zen Mastering, I'm sure you get this all the time, but can you explain what mastering is?
Yeah, by now I should be able to. It's kind of tricky. I mean, mastering is more of like, there's a couple different levels to mastering. And what I've learned over the years, I've been doing mastering pretty much seriously and dedicated, I want to say since 2002.
Okay.
So, 15 years. And I've mastered, I think, about 800 projects in that time. So I've got a little bit of experience under my belt.
Right.
And what I've learned is that, what I do is sort of dependent upon what the person before me does.
Okay.
So, when something is recorded and then mixed, the decisions that are made at that point in time dictate what I can and also want to do.
Okay.
So technically, to just quickly answer the question, mastering is often referred to as sort of the end of the creative process and the beginning of the technical process.
Oh, okay.
So where you're making final, the last opportunity to adjust, sonics, the bass content, the high frequency, the mid-range.
Yep.
And that's, the creative part. And then the technical part being, you're encoding things like, information if it's going to go onto a disc.
Right.
Or you're doing, cleanup, beginning and out fades and sequencing of an album. And that in itself is all sort of like an art form.
And that information is like what pops up when you have a digital readout on your stereo, and it knows the songs and it knows the information.
Right. And that exists currently. Technology continues to evolve. And when I started doing mastering in the early 2000s, everything was CD.
Yeah.
Okay, and now it's sort of like artists decide, well, am I going to bother printing CDs?
Right.
So it still exists, but the PQ information that goes onto the disc, that's encoded when like a master disc is cut.
Gotcha.
And that's what will show up, say, if you have a home theater system or a car stereo, and you put the disc in, and it shows the album title and the artist and the song title.
Yeah, I always wondered how that
So that is something that I do. Now, what happens when you put a disc into a computer, even if I encode CD text and ISRC information on a disc, when you put it into a computer, it doesn't actually read it off of the disc.
Okay.
What it does is it looks to a database, what's called CDDB,
Okay.
online, and it looks for a match. And what it looks for is if I put in a disc that has 4 songs, it says, okay, how many discs in our collection, in our archive, have 4 songs where the songs are this length in this order?
Okay.
And it turns out that there are very few duplicates in that. So it will almost always bring up the right thing.
Okay.
So that is actually pulling from a database. And that's something, like when you upload things, when an artist would upload songs, they generally have to do that themselves.
Right.
So there's a couple different layers to it.
Okay.
It continues to get more complicated the more formats there are.
Okay.
And this has always existed when it went from album to cassette or, but now we're dealing with digital.
Yeah, I bet that changed your job quite a bit.
Yeah, and so that's part of the technical process. But another layer of this to say, what is mastering? Again, what I've learned over the years is that what you want out of an album is, and again, dependent upon how it was recorded and how it was mixed, because I can't really change what happened, the decisions that were made before it came to me. I can try to minimize the things that I think are not good and maximize the things that I think are good.
Right.
But the pie is sort of already baked at that point. It's set, and I'm just kind of putting it in the oven. I can't change the ingredients and different things. So, I think the layman's idea of what mastering is to make a recording sound as consistently good as it can in every listening environment. That's sort of just the general non-technical
headphones in your car,
home theater system, car, all this stuff, which a lot of times has to do with how much bass content there is in the instrumentation, and different instruments have different amounts of just an acoustic guitar, you hit it and the second you hit it, it just begins to die away.
Sure.
Many instruments are like this, a drum. So, but different combinations of instruments will end up sounding just naturally more consistent on their own.
Okay.
So that may dictate what I do, and I say, well, okay, I don't need to try to increase the overall, average level of this recording because of the instruments involved in the way it was recorded and mixed. Sometimes I get recordings that have very little consistency, and it's like, okay, how can I try to kind of squeeze this together a little without taking the life out of the instruments,
right,
but making it so that it's not dying away so quickly that, when you're in your car, you're competing, there's a lot of noise in there.
Sure.
Air conditioning, road noise.
Yeah.
You're talking to somebody on the phone, so you're trying to bring this up so that it's, it has an average volume and sort of, compression that helps fight against those environmental noises.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you listen to it, say on headphones, it shouldn't sound unnatural.
Right.
So that's sort of like what happens a lot in mastering, is trying to go, okay, here's what was brought to me, what needs to be done.
Right.
And how can I best do that?
And how much input do the artists have in the mastering process?
It depends on how much they want to have.
Okay.
Sometimes I get things from people and they want me to create the sound they're looking for.
Okay.
Because they haven't quite gotten there.
Gotcha.
And I'll say, okay, here's what I can do. And usually I kind of run up a sample for them and go, here's my idea. And I send it to them and they go, okay, I like that. Other people are very happy and very particular about what they have at that point.
Sure.
And they want it basically
just enhanced,
just
but not
sort of like
changed.
levels
Yeah.
adjusted and consistency and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it kind of depends on, and then it also depends on, to be realistic, the time frame.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to me and says, here, I need this mastered, it needs to be done in 2 days, there isn't a whole lot of time for interaction back and forth.
Right.
That's when I sort of fall back on okay, I know what I'm doing, I know what to do. Here's my intuition and my experience coming into play.
Gotcha.
There you go. And 9 times out of 10 that works out.
Yeah.
1 time out of 10 they have to adjust their schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot of different layers to it. It's a very simple concept, but it's the nuance of it. After 15 years, I'm still amazed at what I learn.
Yeah.
And also what I can do sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I'm pretty impressed with that.
Nice. So do you also do recording of the music?
I don't do recording for people.
Okay.
I do. How I got to mastering
Yeah,
years
that was
ago
my
was that
question.
I used to go to recording studios
Okay.
because I am a musician.
Okay.
I'm a guitarist. In fact, my wife was sort of encouraging me to bring my guitar today.
Oh, yeah.
But I told her maybe another time I want to focus on mastering right now, so maybe we can
good
do
idea,
another
Gita.
episode.
Next time, for sure.
She's always,
Pushing that side of it.
Yeah, trying to get me to play a little more. But yeah, I would go into a recording studio and I was always comparing, and I think this is probably something a lot of artists do, what was happening in the studio and what I was hearing as a finished mix compared to what I was buying.
Yeah.
And then trying to figure out why doesn't it sound like this, and what I figured out was that mastering was the piece that I was not getting to, and I ended up going to, I want to say like around 1998, which is, it kind of scares me to start saying things in those terms. I went to get a recording mastered, and this guy that did it was really good. And I think I was at the right point where I had been recording for long enough, and I had had enough successes, enough failures, to where the light bulb just turned a little, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And it really kind of like clicked with me.
Great.
So that, but to answer your question about recording, I do have a, background and experience in recording, and I do recording on my own of just my guitar.
Personal stuff, yeah.
And things where I feel like I really, probably knowing that I couldn't afford financially or friendship-wise to drive for me to pay or to drive somebody crazy enough to continually refine what I'm looking for.
Right.
So I do my own recording of my guitar stuff.
Gotcha.
And so that's something that I enjoy.
And
Yeah.
Zen Mastering, you obviously have a connection to yoga.
I do, and
You look like you're 20 in your 20s, and I always tell you this, but you literally
I'm actually
do.
in my 30s. I'm not even going to tell you how old I am.
And I think that's due to yoga and your healthy lifestyle.
I'll be honest, I just inherited good genes.
Okay.
Yoga doesn't hurt. In fact, I was a couple weeks ago. I was out of town and I was taking an Uber somewhere, and I was actually going to a yoga kind of workshop. It was in Denver, and so I was taking. My aunt lives there, and I thought it'd be a good chance to spend some time with her.
Nice.
And then to go to this yoga workshop and kind of kill two birds with one stone. And I was there, and I'm taking an Uber to this workshop, and the guy said, "Oh, so you must live a real clean life." And I said, I enjoy a gin and tonic, as much as anybody.
Sure. So tell me some of the bands of note that people would recognize that you've worked with over the years.
Okay. Well, so when I first started mastering, it was very hard for me to convince people in San Diego to use me. And it was probably for good reason. I didn't have a lot of experience back then. People were going to LA to get stuff done.
Yeah.
So I had to learn what I was doing and get good at it. But I was doing, I think in any town, people were probably grappling with the same thing. And so if you lived in Phoenix, you didn't use the guy in Phoenix, you'll use the guy in California. And they found me. So I did a lot of work for people all over the country and all over the world. Over time, I've spent less energy sort of promoting myself, so now more people in town
word of
use
mouth
me. So I do probably now more stuff for people in town. I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of really good artists and a lot of really good producers and engineers. Now and then Jeff Berkeley sends me some stuff, and Jeff is a great musician.
Absolutely.
Great studio sound. He's really got a sound of his own. Jesse Johnson.
Oh yeah.
You know Jesse? He's Higher Ground Music.
Absolutely.
Jesse is a sickly talented individual.
Sickly talented is exactly the words.
So he's always like, he does a loop thing, and on top of it, like, he's a good looking guy. It's can you just like not have something not going for you?
And he's got a theater background, and
right.
He's just
so
like
he's
quadruple threat.
Right. So I done, he and I work together a lot. I'm just thinking like studios right now. John Hawes in Ramona.
Oh yeah,
John,
absolutely.
he sends me a lot of stuff.
Ramona music.
And he's a very talented gentleman as well.
Absolutely.
Every time I see something, he's playing cello or he's doing guitar. Or I talk to people that record with him. They're like, "Oh yeah, John does everything."
Yeah.
And I didn't know that in the beginning. He would just send me stuff, and then I realized over time.
That was
and this is what you learn too: is that you don't know that much about people, or people contact you, and then if you have time, you can dig back into things. To list. One of my real failings is just having a good off-the-cuff memory. So I'm trying to think of people, but I do a lot of stuff for bands all over town.
Yeah, and that's interesting. You said each producer has their own sound.
Yeah.
And I've definitely, I've worked with very few in San Diego. I worked with Swin Eric Seaholm earlier on, and then of course been a return customer at Jeff Berkeley's. But those two gentlemen right there, definitely different sounds.
Both talented people with completely different sounds.
Completely different sounds.
Sven's a little more, at least in my opinion, modern sounding.
Sure.
And maybe like, I don't know, it's 80s turned into 90s sound.
I love that,
production-wise. And Jeff is much more 70s and 60s roots-oriented.
Right.
And
it's just interesting how a producer can get, their footprint or their thumbprint, their stamp.
Everybody has an idea about how they want to record something. And then again, that in turn, influences like what I think my decisions, my options are in doing stuff.
Yeah.
And so just there's so many. One of the things, I've lived in San Diego since 1987.
Okay.
And I really am always astounded at the amount of talent in San Diego.
Yep.
I mean, there's just so many people, I'm just learning about, so many people that have been here forever that I never met.
Yep.
So many, just on so
Coming
many levels, so
and
many, people who used to do music, who went away from music or coming back to music. I mean, it's really, there's really a deep pool of talent in San Diego. So. Agreed.
So how would people contact you if they were interested in having you master their material?
Well, the website is zenmastering.com. Facebook, searching for it that way. So that's probably the easiest way, is to, just send me an email.
Okay.
Or my phone number is on the website. And, call and, we can talk about the project and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I have to say that I've been doing mastering for 15-ish years. I'm as enthusiastic as I ever have been.
I feel like that's true.
And I say that
I know
honestly.
it.
I mean, I love working with, the talent in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I like learning stuff, and I like, you know, I mean, even this probably sounds egotistical, but proving that I can make recordings sound better.
Yeah.
You know, and make people very happy. And that makes me happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, I think that, and that's one of the challenges too I've run across, is that the first question being, what is mastering?
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard question for even me to answer at this point in time. There's just so many ways to answer that question.
Right.
So trying to, I think, promote mastering. You know, a lot of the people who are well known at mastering, you know about them because of like famous people they've worked with. And you still don't even know what they do. You just figure, well, they must be good at what they do because they, you know, XYZ use them.
For sure.
So I think people still, I got an email from somebody from LA earlier this week, and I think their comment was, we recorded with an engineer here, and he said that, like, everybody who's serious gets their stuff mastered, and we found you online. So it's like he's a musician, good musician. Right. He still doesn't know really
anything
what
about
it is
or
why he needs it. It's just that his mix engineer told him to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that, because over the years with technology evolving, you know, one of the things that's happened is that software companies sell like mastering plugins, bundles, whatever.
Right.
And a lot of mix engineers have just decided, I'll just buy the Waves mastering bundle and make $300 extra by telling the artist I can do that. You know, one of the things, like what I can say is, mastering is not necessarily like a specific set process. So getting like a bundle to do something, they're based on averages, and they're based on ideas of, you know, just adding frequency curves to things. But they're not listening to what the music is. And really, to do something that's professional, you know, so I appreciate that engineer told the artist that in their best interest to find someone that could do like a professional mastering company, as opposed to saying, well, you could give me $300 and I'll just apply the Waves,
run it through this machine,
you know, whatever bundle, because that isn't really mastering. That's not, I can say what it's not, and it's not just applying a set of presets to like a recording. So I'm happy just to answer questions people have, to talk to them, you know, whatever. Everything I do is not based around, you know, getting $1 in my pocket at the end of the day. You know, sometimes I turn people away. I just say, this is not, you know, this isn't something I can do anything with because of the choices that were made before me, so I think you should just go on with this, as opposed to saying, you know, I feel like my reputation is more important than any day's choice. So I try to, you know, I think maybe it's another thing I've learned from yoga is to try to be honest.
It's beautiful.
It's a daily thing.
Absolutely.
You have to make your choices.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Cathryn.
Awesome to sit and hang out with you and
thank you
learn
for having
more
me.
about this crazy science called mastering. I'm going to spread the word, as I always do, to all the folks in San Diego and all over.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Take care.